What's that? Howls in the woods? Movement under the water? Something that you notice out the corner of your eye, but when you look, it's gone? This is Cryptid Talk. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone had a good week, a good 4th of July, and hopefully you'll have a good remaining of your weekend too. Had a good time. Saw some fun fireworks with family yesterday. Always a good time, beer, food, all the good fun stuff you kind of do at a barbecue and everything. and and I hope everyone was safe and had a good time as well, and no one tried doing anything too silly or anything. So today we are continuing our part 2 of 3 series of talking about Australian cryptids. Last time we talked about Megalania, the giant lizard of the outback. And today we are going to be talking about the Australian Yowie. And in shortness of it, this is the Australian version of Bigfoot, pretty much. And I will also say this, that there's a chance this might be a shorter than normal episode, just for the fact of that, like, a lot of stuff that I could say for this, I've said before with just Bigfoot stuff in general. Sure, I'll try to, maybe go over a few more things here and there and stuff like that. And I've got some things here that I found that I can read and stuff like that. Just some interesting things. And, we'll just kind of just go from there and, just see how it goes. So, this probably won't be as long as normal. So, anywho, so the Yowie is probably one of the most well-known cryptids in Australia. I would even say more than Megalania, because obviously anyone that hears any sort of story about hearing a giant hairy man that scares the bejesus out of people, or or something crazy like that, completely just mind boggles anyone who's hearing about this for the first time too, especially people who either come from like different parts of the world and then hear like, wait, Australia has a big hairy man too? What's going on, kind of thing? What's going on here? And that is kind of an interesting thing as well, because it makes you wonder what's really going on with all these hairy things. I need to make a quick actually no, I'll do that later. So then it is kind of interesting because we have all these different hairy hominoid like creatures all over the world, and it then makes you wonder, like, okay, like how is this possible? Like, how are all these things connected in some way? And I won't go, well, actually, before we get into that, before we deep dive into that, let's just talk about just the Yowie itself. The Yowie is supposedly a 5 to 9 foot tall hairy hominoid creature. Some things I saw saying up to like 12, but who knows? Most of the times with these stories, the stories would, or they say they're that extravagant size, but they actually aren't as big. But as far as most reports, people mostly reliable reports, and most commonly sightings of people saying that is at max height, even 9 feet at max speed. Some people seem to agree on, even though in the world of Bigfoot and stuff like that, some people will say even 9 feet is pushing it. 8 feet being like the normal tall size. But that's what people say, but who really knows for sure? Because, there could be some super huge, tall, giant ones out there that are just very good at hiding, or maybe people really are seeing these things, but we just unfortunately just don't have the evidence to support their claims. And apparently, reports of it are also saying that it is a bit more aggressive than out of all like the hairy hominoid species. It's the most aggressive one. It has been seen, ripping the heads off of animals, stuff like that, as either for food or just pure aggression, or just protecting its territory. Most people could argue that things don't normally kill just for the sake of killing. They're either to defend themselves, or protect their territory, or for food. So kind of hard to say of which one it probably goes in that direction of. Let's see. But okay, so what does it look like? Again, it looks like the generic Bigfoot kind of thing. It's either got like a brown, reddish fur, kind of something similar to how people describe the skunk ape in the southern parts of the United States. And apparently, people have seen it more with these. Have seen it with like fangs, which is, adjusting in my seating position, which is kind of interesting in a way too, because that's one thing I might make note of here real quick for some Bigfoot have fangs, some don't. Because I will say that, because in the beginning, because I do plan, I don't know when, obviously trying to give time between episodes and stuff like that, but I do plan on doing a part 3 of Bigfoot at some point. I might give it a little bit more time between episodes than I did the first one and the second one, but so I think we'll do that for now. But I'm making notes because I don't forget. If I don't write it down, chances are I probably might forget about it later, and it will kill me later. And I remember after the fact. I'm like, ooh, how did I forget that? So stories there have been stories of it having fangs. Now, in most hairy hominoid-like creatures, we'll just use Bigfoot for an example, since there's a lot more evidence of that than probably has them out of all the hairy hominoids of the planet. That one probably has the most evidence and description of it. So it's interesting because a lot of those times, like the story that I mentioned, I believe it was the first time at least, that a hunter in a tree stand, had eye contact with a Bigfoot for a decent amount of time, and they just stared at each other. Well, at one point during their interaction, it yawned, showing that it didn't have fangs like a normal primate do, and yet its mouth and teeth looked a bit more humanoid, more human than actual primate kind of thing. So like, okay. And so a quick rundown of it real quick. So then I was trying to think, okay, why would that be the case then? And then I quickly said that, how we Homo sapiens evolved to not have fangs, because fangs in the primate, in the animal world, are seen more as showing aggression and trying to scare off potential competition for their mates, while we evolved to not have fangs to seem not as aggressive or scary, someone that they can be safe around. And then we just have other ways of showing that, we can defend and stuff like that when the time comes. So it's like, okay, that's pretty interesting. So that, who knows, that might help in leading towards, what are Bigfoot. Now it kind of leaves that out, a whole thing of, okay, well, okay, no, we won't get to that because I'm going to be talking about that a little bit. So it's like, okay, so it leads to like, okay, what could it be? And then you can then start arguing, and then it's like, okay, now let's say the stories are, the descriptions of these creatures are true. Let's say Yowie do have fangs. Now the stories I said, they don't really seem to be protruding as like long, like vampire fangs or anything like saber-tooth wise or anything like that, but just very noticeable fangs coming out of their mouth. So that makes me interested. Now to say, like, all right, because that's the biggest, that's one of the biggest talks about Bigfoot and everything else like that is, what are they, kind of thing. I still have another note. Sorry, 1 second. Each one something different or same. So it's kind of interesting because we have the one side of it that say that that Bigfoot can don't need to, or they don't seem to have fangs, because a lot of descriptions do not depict them as having fangs. And again, I've only heard, like, this is the first story I heard at the time of someone saying they ever saw like their teeth are like yawn, like got a good look at its mouth. And I'm thinking, okay, there must be something, it's like, okay, that again, that might help in the point of direction it is. But now we have this other one over here of being like, okay, something very similar in description wise, but these ones do have fangs. So then that kind of goes what I was just writing down in here, and I'll go into it more at a later episode. But are like what, like how similar or dissimilar are all the Bigfoot creatures of the world? Do they all like? The original theory was that they were Gigantopithecus, crossed over from the ice bridge, and then they spread out through North America and then into the South and other stuff like that. Now that necessarily doesn't fully explain all of it, because at one point I when you get bored at work, you try to think of anything to keep your mind off of work and try to make, well, we're still working, but making times, that time, flies by kind of thing. Again, isn't as slow. So then we have this whole thing of like, okay, what are we gonna like? Okay, hold on, I'm losing track because notifications go away. Shoot. So it's like, okay, because apparently, do I want to get into that right now? Sure. Yeah. We'll get into that right now. So one of the things I was trying to figure out, it's like, okay, what are like, because I was trying to think of like, okay, the only time that from when I looked at this originally, Gigantopithecus. Let's just go with the Gigantopithecus theory for just a moment. So the theory was that they traveled the ice brink in North America, but now, okay, now what about the other parts of the world? Now, excuse me. Now, if I'm not, I could be wrong, but I believe that by the time that Gigantopithecus was starting to become a thing, the species was starting to, evolve into what it was and everything like that, that the Pangea, because, at one point, the entire world was a single continent known as Pangea during the time of the dinosaurs. But then over time, with tectonic plates and everything else like that, it separated to the current positions of the continents that they are all today. And so by the time that Gigantopithecus would have been around, the split would have already have happened. And unless there was like an easier, like, even if the split had already happened, maybe there might have been a way of them being like still close enough or something they could work with to travel over down there. Because if they are in Asia, they would have to go they would have to go down through Indonesia, through the islands of Indonesia, can go around with the Orang Pendek, and then going down more into New Zealand and then Australia. So I'm thinking like, okay, I mean, so they are primates, so there must have been some sort of thing there that could explain it a bit more of how did a hairy hominoid species like that get to Australia? Because Australia is the only one that just that theory, which again, Pithecus, going there is the only one that is tough because again, ice bridge North America, and then you already got the rest of Russia and Europe and everything like that. So the continent is already all connected to there. It can then just separate from there. But now again, okay. So what I have here before I get too off track, this is something that I found that might possibly explain some of that a little bit. All right, so just bear with me for just a moment. Quote, like most Bigfoot species, it is theorized that the Yowie descends from an ancient ape called Gigantopithecus blacki. That's the scientific name for it. While the Gigantopithecus Giganto-Bigfoot theory may be valid, it is highly unlikely that the Yowie descends from the same Asian ape, as creatures from Asia never made it to Australia due to the sea depth and vice versa. Creatures from Australia, and vice versa, creatures from Australia never made it to Asia. This separation is marked by the Wallace line. Another theory is that they may be a living Homo erectus, the presence of which prehistoric Australia is suspected, but not proven, or particularly primitive tribe. End quote. I'll make sure it's nothing. Okay. Okay. One more thing. Quote: there are some 140 placental mammals known to exist in Australia, most belonging to in the order of like bats or rodents. I'm not even gonna try the scientific names. We'll be here all day. Some cryptozoologist theories that the Yowie could be some form of bipedal marsupial, such as the descendant of the New Guinea Hulatherum, due to the fact that there are no primates native evolution-wise to Australia in the fossil record. End quote. So interesting. So now it's hard to say. Like we can obviously, between like in the span of like 10,000, like 100,000 years, in the span of the world, that's not a long time. That really isn't. So there could maybe who at one point maybe when if the depth if when things are to separate and it wasn't. Nah, but even by that point though, I don't know. It's tough. It really makes you think about what Gigantopithecus really can be. Where did it come from? Why is it similar in some ways, but then different in others? So then it kind of makes you like wonder, like, all right, so like again, like the whole fangs thing. So maybe they are, and then Homo erectus is another possible theory for Bigfoot and what it is, and that's one the other theory is that Bigfoot is more of a ancient humanoid like species than more so an actual animal, even though technically all are all animals, but I'm kind of just using it loosely just for the sake of this conversation kind of thing. And so when you think about it, it's like, all right, it's like just the differences in them and everything like that, and how the fangs and everything. I don't know. It really does make you wonder where, like what could it, what could it be? Because because even by that point, we would be too even separate. Because the point I was trying to make was that even with it still hasn't been that long, but the point I was trying to, oh man, I am being wordy today. Let's slow down a little bit. Whew. Take a breath. So then that makes you think, like, could it be possible, that is some sort of ancient humanoid species, and that's why the Bigfoots of North America are not seen as have to have more human-like characteristics, no long fangs and stuff like that. So now let's say that the Yowie is somehow an ancient humanoid species. Why, if it is true and it's not just some missing the eye and stuff like that, even though that seems to be very well known for it with the teeth, maybe maybe why do they still have their fangs like ancient primates did of showing aggression? And let's go with that fact. Maybe there could be so many different reasons on why. Maybe they had to evolve to still keep up the teeth and showing their aggression. Because Australia, if you haven't heard right, if you haven't heard like the jokes that people make and stuff like that, like everything in Australia wants to kill you. Some of the most like there are so many animals that can kill you in Australia just from their strength alone, to having some of the most venomous creatures on the planet on the continent of Australia. Even in the oceans nearby, there are dangerous. Like Australia's a really dangerous place with a lot of dangerous animals. But again, that's why most people live on the on the border of Australia, and barely anyone to no one lives in the center of the outback. So then that kind of leads to like, all right, so maybe obviously like stories of Yowies are seen like all more or less all over the place. Now, who's to say that there aren't more of them in the center? You can make the same for other cryptids like Megalania and other ones like that. Like reports only happen of cryptids if there are people there to report it. But if there are not people there, then how would there ever be reports of them if they never interact? So you can kind of just see like, all right, well, I guess that kind of makes a little bit of sense. But so maybe there are more. You can say the same not just for the Australia, but for other cryptids all over the world. There won't be reportings, there won't be sightings of it if there's never any interaction. You need people to have sightings. that the people, you can't have sighting and reports. So there could be more in the. I believe there's personally more in the outback that where there's a lot more of this stuff are, and maybe even more than we even don't even know of yet. Australia is a big place, so all right, okay, so now the kind of now I I don't really have much to go off of this because it's like, all right, is it a is it a humanoid species, and and maybe it evolved with fangs to be more aggressive because again it had to. Because if you didn't know this, fun fact, um, Australia was actually a more or less a place to bring prisoners from Europe. So that's why um, the English accent, the Australian accents are pretty similar because they're all descendants of. A lot of them are descendants from either criminals or people who came here, with their along with the criminals, and then had just and then went on through there. So, fun fact if you didn't know that. So that's why both the accents are similar, but obviously different in their own ways. So, again, who knows what Yowie would really are compared to everything else are. And I won't get too deeply into it this time, but maybe for a few time we'll get into it a bit more about what I'm thinking right now. The other interesting thing that I like that adds more to the believability of the Yowie is once again the native people that grow up in these areas with cryptids add more credibility to it than people like to acknowledge. But there are Aboriginal cave paintings and rock paintings and just paintings of general of a giant creature, giant man. Obviously, I don't think they can really do really well with making it look hairy with those kind of paintings. But that shows, okay, so we obviously are seeing something here that they are paying something that is as real and is seen to them. And it's the same thing with Megalania. They have cave paintings of a giant lizard bigger than man. They've got paintings of a tall humanoid creature bigger than man, and stories of being attacked and having to defend themselves and everything. So obviously, like North America and other parts of the world that have these ancient sculptures, art, masks, other things like that, showing something that to them it's like, oh yeah, that's a normal thing to us. Like for them, this is like Yowie's as normal as a kangaroo, and so they kind of like, all right, that's pretty interesting, and so I don't know. I've always liked whenever because apparently there are some cave paintings in North America that no one has ever seen, like the native people of the areas that their ancestors painted these cave paintings have never been seen by the public at all. I think only a very few people here in parts of the U.S. have even gotten permission to look at these things. Excuse me, but we're not allowed to take any pictures or video or anything like that. So there are cave paintings even today that the world doesn't even know of. So, but now what? But like voluntarily. But now what about for like Australia? In parts of the outback that no one visits. How do we know there's not more stuff out there that people have never seen or noticed before, but are clearly real? I don't know. It's pretty interesting, and I think it's just one of those things that whenever there's one cryptid that I'm not going to mention the name of it, but I'll have to reconfirm. But I swore that it's a cryptid that sounds so unlikely, but I heard that there are possible like depictions or paintings of some sort from Native Americans of this cryptid or it being mentioned in some way. So maybe it's not as far fetched as you think, but we're not going to get into that one right now. But I'm very excited for when we do. So make sure you follow the Facebook page and subscribe to YouTube if you want to know what it is when the episode drops. So yeah, so there's that evidence, and of course there's the about so-called like video tracks, all the different normal evidence you get from Bigfoot and everything like that from North America. And apparently there also is apparently very good thermal footage of it like reaching out of a bush and like grabbing something and something along those lines. So pretty interesting. But like there's no like that probably might be one of the most like when people think of Yowie kind of thing that know about it, that's one of the first video evidence or evidence in general that they go to. And so, okay. Actually, before we even get too far away, I want to go back to something that was mentioned in the little article thing that I read. That let's see, the presence of which in which prehistoric Australia is suspected but not proven. Whoops, sorry. Went a little too far forward. Oh, there it goes. Theories that the Yowie could be some form of bipedal marsupial are such a descendant as a New Guinea Hulithrium, due to the fact that there's no primate native evolution-wise to Australia in the fossil record. And it's not a horrible argument because there is some truth to it. That it's hard to it is going to be hard to prove a lot of cryptids in the world, because the one big thing is that they either had to have been around for a long time, and if so, there has to be fossils of these things. Okay. Hold on. Got something else I want to write down. Fossils and time to make. I'm making sure because there's some stuff that I've wanted to write down but I didn't, and I completely forgot about them. So there's some possible fun stuff that could have been talked about. So yeah, so fossil records are a very good thing to prove. Like that's the main argument for Bigfoot in America. Now people could argue the fact that, well, there won't be any fossil records in like parts like the Pacific Northwest because it's very wet there, and there is no way of the ground of there for fossils to even form there. That's why most fossils are seen to be more in the central part of the United States, like more like in like the desert and rocky areas, because that it would be the most depictable time back in the ancient history of a fossil being able to be formed there. Now, Australia, there are fossils that are known to be found there too. The environment is pretty interesting there. So now then people can argue, like, well, why haven't we found anything? And then the environment there for Australia is perfectly good for evidence to be of a fossil to be found in Australia of the Yowie. Now, who's to say? Now there have been bones, I believe, that have been found of like ancient like humanoids that have been known to live there. Who's to say that those weren't some of that? And there's a lot of what ifs or possibilities, but it's hard to really go off of that. Man, I really wish I thought about this ahead of time and thought about some more research for it. This happens to me a lot where I'm talking about something live on the show, and then I think I was like, oh, why didn't I think about that now? Dang it, I could have done a little bit more research for it and maybe had some more to talk about that. So, and I don't want to go clickety clack 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 on my laptop trying to find things now, kind of thing. But if I ever really had to, or something that's like I really want to get more into right now, I'm thinking about it, it's relevant, then maybe I would. So then it's like, all right, how can that be? Like, what can we do with that? And I don't know. It's why wouldn't there be fossil records? And because one of the things I wrote down that I'll look into later is how long it takes for a fossil to form and stuff like that. So who's to say there aren't fossils to be found, but either we didn't find them yet, or they haven't turned into fossils yet. I don't know. It's the tricky subject when you really do think about it. But okay, so the next thing where are you? Here we go. So right here I have sightings of the Yowie throughout history and stuff like that, and and what parts of these stories were also seen as, because it is pretty interesting, what people what kind of look at it and everything like that. And Australia has some pretty interesting cryptids, but that's for another time. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just gonna read this little section here right quick, and so just if you haven't already, keep sitting back and relax. Quote, in the 1850s, accounts of indigenous apes appeared in the Australian Town and Country Journal. The earliest account in November of 1876 asked readers, who has not heard from the earliest settlement of the colony, uh, people speaking of speaking of some unearthly animal or inhuman creature, namely the Yahoo devil, or the hairy man of the wood. And one end quote. But some other names for the Yowie at some point was called the Yahoo. So maybe that kind of did to the Yowie to this day. And when I kind of started a little bit, it's not a bad racy word, but I was trying. I'm kind of let's just say just people kind of thing. Let's just go with that for now. Okay. Quote. This is from someone who interviewed someone. Quote: a few days ago, I saw one of these strange creatures on the coast between Bateman's Bay and Ulatahula. God, if I pronounce that wrong, I know I pronounced it, but if it sounded bad to you, I apologize. I think that if it were standing perfectly upright, it would probably be nearly 5 feet high. It was tailless and covered in very long black hair, which was a dirty red or snuff color about the throat and breast. Its eyes were small and restless, were particularly hidden by the matted hair that covered its head. I threw a stone at the animal, whereupon it immediately rushed off. End quote. So this guy was telling you about an account that he had of this creature or everything like that back then. Okay, Okay, so quote: in 2010, a Canberra man said he saw a person described as a juvenile covered in hair with long arms trying to steal his car in his garage. A friend later told him that it could have been an aborigine. So, okay, it could be possible that maybe end quote. Some of these accounts of the Yowie might be, possibly, maybe some Aboriginal people and stuff like that. But a lot of times, if you've ever really seen what most Aboriginal people look like, they, just wear clothes that are normal to them. But you can clearly see that they are people. They don't have long hair or anything that would distinguish that that they're anything more than just a person. But who knows? Maybe there are some of them that live their entire lives, separated even from the Aboriginal people, and became more wild and stuff. Oh, and real quick, that story was taken from the Australian Capital Territory, so kind of give you an idea of where some of these accounts happen. Okay, now some of these are from New South Wales. Include quote. End quote. I'm gonna read a bunch of these. Quote: in 1977, the Sydney Morning Herald reported that residents of Oxley Island near Terray recently heard screaming noises made by an animal at night. And then okay, yeah. In 1994, the Tim the Yowie Man claimed to have seen a Yowie in Brindabella Ranges. I'm messing this up. I'm sorry. So I guess some a report a well-known God, what is the word I'm looking for right now? Researcher went and looked into it. In 1996, while driving on holiday, a couple from Newcastle claimed to have seen a Yowie between Braidwood and the coast. They said it was a shaggy creature walking upright, standing at the height at least of 2.1 meters tall, with disproportionately long arms and no neck. End quote. All right, hold on real quick. I think I know what that is, but let me just be sure. Meters to feet. Okay, so this creature was roughly about almost about 7 feet tall. So interesting, and that's always interesting because if you look at humans, our arms are proportionally pretty well. When you stand up, you normally get to around like about like your hip. But now when they say when they for Bigfoot and other cryptids like this, and especially the hairy hominoid ones, when they say their arms were much longer than they normally would be for a normal human, they're probably going longer. It probably adds a bit more of dis- disturbing information of how they look, kind of thing. Okay. Next. Quote, in August 2000, a Canberra bushwhacker described seeing an unknown bipedal beast in the Brinabella Mountains. The bushwhacker, Steve Piper, caught the incident on videotape. The film has been known as the Piper film. Okay, I'm actually kind of curious real quick. Come on. Yowie Piper film. Oh, okay. Okay, I have seen this one before. Okay, it's pretty cool. I won't watch it right now, but I will add this to the Facebook page so you can take a look at it for yourselves. Okay. In March of 2011, a witness reported to NSW National Parks and Wildlife Services seeing a yowie in the Blue Mountains at Springwood in West Sydney. The witness had filmed the creature and taken photographs of his footprints. And nothing is saying else. Oh, it's this. So unfortunately, there may not be anything of it. So that's unfortunate. In May 2012, an American television crew claimed to have recorded audio of the yowie in remote region of the NSFW Queensland border. In June 2013, the Lismore resident and music photographer claimed to have seen a yowie just north of Bexhill. And sometime in the mid 1970s, people there had offered a $200,000 reward for anyone who could capture and present a yowie. And obviously, the reward has yet to be claimed. So apparently, that reward is actually still there to this day. So it's kind of interesting. So the fact that something like that is still going on even now. In the Northern quote, in the Northern Territory, in the late 1990s, there were several reports of yowie sightings in the area around Acacia Hills. One such sighting was made by mango farmer Katrina Tucker, who reported in 1997 having just meters away from one of the hairy hominoid creatures on her property. Apparently, there were photos that were taken of the time. We've also had sightings in Queensland. Quote, a Springbok region in southeast Queensland had more yowie reports than anywhere else in Australia. In 1977, former Queensland Senator Bill O'Chee reported to the Gold Coast Bulletin he had seen a yowie while on a school trip in Springbrook. O'Chee compared the creature he saw to the character Chewbacca from Star Wars. He told reporters the creature that he saw had been over 3 meters tall, which aims a creature around like 9 to 10 feet tall. Okay, and then one last thing. I think this is in 2014, 2 yowie researchers claimed to have filmed the yowie in South Queensland using an infrared camera, which might be the video I was talking about. Collected fur samples and found large footprints. Later that year, the Jim Pie man told media that he had acquired yowies on several occasions, including coverage, conserving with and teaching some English to a very young, very large male yowie in the bush near Gympie. And several people in Port Douglas claimed to have seen yowies, and also in these areas. End quote. So yowies have been seen all over the place. Now, who knows to say if this person truly did teach it to one particular, but it's kind of interesting nonetheless when you really do think about it. And so it's pretty interesting. And so going back to real quick, talking about Chewbacca kind of thing. Fun note: when they were filming the third Star Wars movie, and they were filming they were filming that part in the Pacific Northwest, the forest moon of Endor. That's where they were filming. They told the actor who was playing Chewbacca not to go wandering off too much because the Patterson-Gimlin footage has already been out, and a lot of people were still very trigger happy about shooting and taking down a Bigfoot. And, he didn't want him wandering off and then someone getting a shot at this guy. So kind of showed how serious they were, like, be careful, don't go out into the woods kind of thing, obviously for different reasons then, but yeah. So it's pretty interesting that, seeing, when these sightings happen and everything, and showing that, you know, the sightings of this creature still happen today. Now, there's one thing I'm looking at says the last reported sighting was in 2001, but there are evidence and sightings that people have had a Bigfoot and have never told anyone because they don't want to be scrutinized or be made fun of or many different things, which is kind of unfortunate. That was one of the things that I would try to do, is that if you're, like, try not to discriminate against people who said they have seen something. Like, they don't, like, end their life, end their job just because that, they saw something ridiculous, and like they shouldn't lose any credibility if they say, like, oh yeah, I saw this. And sure, unless they're lying kind of thing. But, like, in retrospect though, like, if they're just saying that this is what I saw, people shouldn't be punished for that. So just keep that in mind. And so it's pretty interesting, and I think the Yowie is something that is it's a difficult cryptid to obviously search for, like many other cryptids. The area is very hot, especially during during the summertime, and of course all the dangerous animals that live out there. Like again, I'm not kidding about the large reptiles, the small reptiles that are venomous, insects, and of course, then that's not even counting what's even all in the coastal regions around Australia too, all the sharks and everything. So Australia is definitely a pretty risky place to live. So maybe that could explain a little bit of if it is what it is, that it evolved to keep its fangs to make sure it either would scare off other predators, and to show that other predators, to show that its strength and everything like that. And so that would be, who knows? Hopefully we get something of any sort of cryptid, Bigfoot wise, but like the Yowie one would be pretty interesting too, and hopefully we get something with that. And I think that might be it. Without me trying to randomly search for things to find to talk about and everything, and just to brag it out just for any longer than it has to be, I think I'm just gonna end it here for now. I did say this was possibly going to be a shorter episode. We're at a pretty decent length saying what I'm at now, but so hopefully I think for what I got and what I got to talk about, and this gave me some really good points of stuff to look into for future episodes. So I'm definitely going to be using some of this information here, because any information I can have now and I write it down can be used for future episodes and future content. So I hope everyone enjoyed part 2 of this part 3 section of Australian cryptids. Next one will be a little bit of a different one, but this will still be fun and interesting nonetheless. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you're a continuous supporter, I thank you. Any likes, comments, shares would mean the world to me and help out the show greatly. And so just remind everyone that I will be at the Central Pennsylvania Bigfoot Festival in Ellsburg, Pennsylvania. It's up in the Poconos, and not even that far from the theme park Knoebels, if you've ever heard about that. But I've heard that there were like 5,000 people last year, and only like a handful of food trucks, and like maybe like 20 vendors or so. Now there's going to be double the vendors, maybe triple the vendors, way more food truck. So they're expecting there to be more, to be the same amount of people, or even way more people than there were at the festival last year. And obviously no schedule yet on where I'll be and anything along that. Because I'm also going to be having my Bigfoot costume that they're going to have people like, all right, if you have a costume, come up here and take pictures with people for a little bit. So I'm working on getting some product made for the festival. Obviously, well, I'm not able to go crazy yet because my first festival of me ever going to and anything. But I'm hoping this goes well, and I'm hoping to meet some listeners, and hopefully get to meet some new people who then listen to the show. Because by the time of my birthday at the end of November, I'm hoping to reach. Oh, okay. We'll say by the end of the year, I want to get to at least 100 subscribers. That's the challenge. Because right now, last time I checked, we are at 14. So if you are listening right now and you are not subscriber right now, hit that subscribe button. I would love to get some more subscribers, and because again, all I'm doing this is just for fun. You know, I'm not doing this like I'm not expecting to get anywhere big or huge or famous or anything like that. I'm just doing this just for the fun. It's a passion project for me, and but I would like to succeed in some well of getting some new listeners, and just people just being more informed about what's going on out there and everything, and hopefully. No, and hopefully we can do it. We can reach that goal. So let a friend let 2, 3 friends know, 3 people and then you can let them know that way. Now, obviously, with me trying to do some sort of merchandise for the festival, I will not be trying any sort of store anytime soon because I just do not have the fan base for that. And I think I would even need a huge fan base for anyone even be considered working with me to even having merchandise being made. Because if a company wants to give me time to make merchandise and for people to buy from them, I need to have a decent amount of people that would be willing to buy the stuff. And if I don't, then these people won't want to work with me, and then won't want anything like that. I don't know the specifics, but I have a general idea that's kind of what it would go for when it comes to setting this up like this. So if you were curious, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm telling you this now. So, and yeah. Oh, and again, if you also follow the Facebook page, Get Cryptid Talk. If you or someone has seen anything at all, it could be the story could be short, it could be long, you can have evidence, you cannot have evidence. It could sound ridiculous, but if you saw something that you can't explain and you want some sort of what did I see, or just like validation of confirming of what you saw it, or like someone that wouldn't judge you, come to me, email me, contact me. You can contact me by email at cryptidtalk91@aol.com. Email me there, and I would love to talk about it a little bit. And at some point, if we get enough people who have sent me some stuff, maybe we'll have an episode or so of me reading reports. I think that'd be kind of fun. And also, if you do email me whatever you want me to call you. You can even give me a fake name, but because obviously for scrutiny reasons and stuff like that, you don't want it coming out or anything. So you can do that as well, or just give me your normal name. I wouldn't know. You can give me, hi, my name's John. I'd be like, hi, John. I would have no real name. I would have no way of knowing if your real name's John or not. So come to me. I would love to listen. All right. I hope everyone had a good 4th of July and is ready to have a even more better, fantastic weekend. So remember, keep your eyes and ears open for the creepiness in store, because you never know what you'll find outside of your door. This has been Cryptid Talk with Michael Madden. Have a good day, everyone, and see you for part 3.